have a great project for you today. It's going to use a jelly roll and 3 accent fabrics, so be sure to grab those and let's get started. I love this quilt. I think it comes together so nice with these great big kind of blossom looking blocks, and I just added some sashing and cornerstones. It's all really scrappy. Let me show you how to make it. So up first, you're going to need 1 roll of 2.5-inch strips, and I use this peacock palette from Kona. I also pulled 3 of the colors from this palette to use as my accent fabric, and that's going to make up all the middles, the wonky star part of my blooms. And so this is geranium, deep blue, and cyan. And then of your background fabric, you're going to need 3.5 yards, and that includes all of the sashing and this little outer border that you see there. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and move this out of the way. So up first, from your roll, this is all going to be based on 2 matching sets of strips. So you're going to have 2 of the same color, and we're going to cut these in different ways so that you can get all the pieces you need for the outside part of your block. So from strip number 1, we are going to cut, we'll start by cutting off our selvage here. Let me just make sure this is all lined up. So we'll trim off our selvage, and then we are going to cut, we need 4 7 by 2.5-inch rectangles, and so I have this doubled up, so I'm going to get 2 at a time here. So there's 2 and 4. So there's those, and then we need 4 2.5-inch strips, or 2.5-inch squares, excuse me. There's 2 and 4. And then I'm just going to recommend, if you have anything extra, you can just open that up, and we can use these for our cornerstones later. So I'm just going to trim that one. This one's a little small, and that can go in the cornerstones pile. So that is the first strip set. And then the next one, much in the same way, we're going to trim off the selvage here. And then we need 4 5-inch strips. So 2 and 4, and then we need 8 more 2.5-inch squares. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. Let's see, is this enough to use for a cornerstone? It is. There we go. So we'll add that to the cornerstones pile. All right, so then we're going to gather up all of our pieces. Just going to stack these up, and then we can start making our block. So we're going to take 5-inch background squares. That's going to be the basis of this. And then we are going to snowball 3 of the corners. I've actually already started some in this slightly other purple, so I'm going to switch to this now. And so what that means when I say snowball is we're going to take this 2.5-inch square that we cut from our strip. Let me get a pin here. And we're going to sew this corner to corner. So you can mark this line or press this line or just eyeball it on your machine if you have some diagonal seam tape or a laser. And we're going to stitch right on that line. And we're actually going to do the same thing to 3 of the 4 corners. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark these. There we go. So I have all 3 of those ready to go, and I'm just going to lay them on here, and so it's going to meet there, and then there, and then there. And so I can actually sew one after the other, and we're just going to have one that will be left whole. So let's go ahead and take these to the machine, and we'll just add one corner after the other. Okay. I find it helpful to put my needle in the middle when I'm doing a bunch of these. So we're stitching right on that drawn line. And I'll stitch off that side. Then I can pivot and come back down. And one more. There we go. So you would repeat this 4 times because we're making the quadrants of our block here. So keep that in mind. You'd have 4 that would look just like this. And I'm going to go ahead and trim off this outside part of my snowball, leaving my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there's 1, 2, and 3. If you wanted to save these little triangles to make little tiny half square triangles, you certainly could. And now we can take this back and we can press these all open. So let's take this over to the iron and just roll those back. And when we use this method, it leaves our square the same size that we started with. So it should still measure 5 inches, which is what we're going for. There we go. All right, and so this is what you're looking for. It should look just like this with 3 of our 4 corners snowballed. And so now we can use some of those strips that we cut to go ahead and build on that. And so I'm going to start by taking the 2.5 by 5 inch rectangle and adding it to this side, and then we'll come in and we will add the 2.5 by 7 inch rectangle on the other side. So let's go ahead and take these to the machine. Remember, you're always going to be adding these strips to the sides that you put the snowballs on. You won't be adding it to the plain corner. Whoops, almost had a disaster. My needle was still in the middle. Move that back to the 1/4 inch. Just pull that seam out. Try this again. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press that first strip back. And then now we'll be adding to this other side with the 2.5 by 7 inch strip. Take a few stitches and then zoom on down. Okay. Lovely. Go ahead and press that as well. Okay. Perfect. So then the last step of these quadrants is to go ahead and use a 2.5 inch background square, and we're going to snowball this in the exact same way to round out this outside corner. So I'm going to draw a line here from point to point, and we just want that to set right in there. And so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we can trim this off. There we go, and we'll just press this back, and our quadrant will be complete. All right, there we go, and so we're going to have 4 of those that are all made in the exact same way. So I have those done here. And now we just need to finish up the middle of our blocks. And so to use that, or to do that, we're going to use kind of the wonky star method, which I really love. And so let's measure our blocks because we're going to cut background strips that are the same length. So these are 7 inches square. So we're going to cut some 2.5 by 7 inch background strips. And then I have these 2 by 4 inch rectangles. And so how I like to do this is I find my little middle crease here on one end, and then we are just going to make sure that we overlap that middle, and you can kind of decide how long or short you want these star legs to be. And we're going to sew right along this edge. And so really all you need is about 1/4 inch of overlap on the side and along this bottom. And then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam just like this. So let's take this to the machine. Okay. So I am lining it up with the edge of my blue fabric, and that's my 1/4 inch guide. Okay, and now we can go ahead and press that back. It'll just roll back to cover our strip, just like so. And so then you can see here how we have done this, and now we can square this off using our ruler and just cut off this excess. Just like so. If you're worried about this bulk of the extra fabric, maybe you're doing some hand quilting and you don't want that, then you can just roll this back and trim off the white that's behind it. I left all of mine in because I knew it was going to be machine quilted and I didn't worry about it, but that's how you would handle that if you wanted to eliminate that extra bulk. And so same thing on the other side. Now we know where that center is. We just want to overlap that some. And then we can take this up and we'll do a 1/4 inch seam. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And we will press this back as well. All right, now we can flip it over and trim this off. There we go. All right, and so you're just going to repeat that 4 times so that you have all of your sashings ready to go. So you can see each one of these looks a little bit different. That's part of the fun. You get to play with it and make it as wonky or wide or skinny or whatever you want. The angle is just going to change the shape of those star legs. So now let's talk about this block as it all comes together. So these are going to spin and our star legs are going to fit in between just like so. And I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but all of these middles do come from those accent fabrics. They're not actually from your strips. There was just not quite enough to get all of those, so we added those colors. And then we finished it off with a 2.5 inch square there in the middle. And you'll just sew this all together, and it turns out so beautiful. You've got 4 blocks across by 4 down, and we just sashed in between with those cornerstones. I absolutely love it. I think it turned out so pretty. For the backing, we used one of our Missouri Star 108s in this fun purple, which really worked with all these beautiful colors on the front, and I quilted it with time warp. It ends up 70 inches square. I hope you guys enjoyed this quilt, and I'll see you next time on At Home. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching At Home. We're so excited to be almost 1 million quilters strong here at Missouri Star. And so if you haven't already joined our family, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all of our future tutorials, and we'll see you soon.